Welcome to another episode Beyond Perception. My name is Simon, and I have the true pleasure to be here today with Dr. Jacob Liberman. And to introduce him briefly, he is a pioneer in the fields of light, vision, and consciousness, and author of numerous books, including Luminous Life, How the Science of Light Unlocks the Art of Living. Originally trained as an optometrist and vision scientist, his life changed in 1976 after the miraculous healing of his eyesight, leading him to a deeper understanding of light and the science of life. Having helped countless individuals recover their eyesight, his life's purpose is to help others see. And to use the words of Dr. Bruce Lipton, Jacob Liberman has managed to unravel the secrets of light and offer them to the world as a source of profound transformation and healing. Welcome, Dr. Liberman. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today.
Simon, the pleasure is mutual, and please call me Jacob.
Okay, super. Yeah, I would love to speak about your last book, Luminous Life, and also the philosophy for life you present. But before we hopefully or possibly do that, I would love to just hear and also share with our audience what led you to being that interested in the nature of life, light, and its connection to vision and consciousness.
You know, each of us is sort of like a different kind of a tree that has a certain nature and a certain purpose. Some trees are very tall and thin. Some are shorter and very broad. Some sway very easily, like palm trees. Some do not bend very much. Some give flowers or fruit. Some have thorns. You cannot get too close to them. And some of them give great shade or provide wood. So each of us has a nature. And with that nature comes a purpose for being. In other words, what is our contribution to this grand scheme that we call life? For me, the journey of life is about uncovering my purpose for being and recognizing what kind of tree I am. Not what the mind says I should be or could be, or what the world expects of me, but essentially, what is my essence? Or the question that the ancients would ask is, who am I? And so when you say, how did I get interested in this? I did not get interested in this. This was interested in me. This was whatever my life's journey was laid out to be. And then life provided me little bits of experience that allowed me to see the path that I was on. My schooling was all for the wrong reasons. But now I realize that even the wrong reasons get you to the right place. When I say the wrong reasons, as a child, I didn't read much. I didn't enjoy reading. And yet in school, they said, oh, you have to read in order to learn. And so because I wasn't an avid reader, I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I was stupid. And even though I worked very hard, it was very difficult to succeed in the way I thought I was supposed to. So I didn't have much security in my own sense of being, if you will. And so I decided to try to become a doctor because in my mind, oh, you can't be stupid if you're a doctor. So I did that. And when one doctorate wasn't enough, I earned a second one. And after I realized that I did this for the wrong reasons, then they gave me a third one. So the point I'm sharing is that I'm just an ordinary person, just like you and everyone else that's listening today. And the journey of life has humbled me because there's a mystery that's unknown to us. And occasionally we get a little glimpse. Something catches our attention and brings us to a new awareness. So my life is about seeing. And when I say seeing, I don't mean reading the eye chart. That's not of much interest to me. But it's about seeing what's behind the curtain, seeing what's really underneath the experience that we are all having each day. Not in terms of opinion, but in terms of truth. Most people speak of the word belief these days, but the word belief means the opposite of truth. In other words, don't trust the beliefs. The beliefs come and go. Truth is constant. It's always there. So that's what inspires me is an interest, an excitement, an inspiration about discovery. Not from looking for things, but noticing what is looking for me, what is entering my awareness and bringing me one place or another, and then I have a surprise. And that's what my life is about.
And if, yeah, you have this vast experience of, I think it's clinical research, but also your personal experience. And you deeply studied the nature of light and how, when you're now looking back on your discoveries and your experience, what is the essence of uncovering truth and waking up from belief?
Everyone thinks they know what light is. But Einstein spent his entire life trying to answer the question, what is light? And at the end of his life, he admitted he wasn't any further along than he was in the beginning. You see, light is like God. It's a word. It's a concept. But the essence of that is undescribable. It's formless. It defines invisibility. It cannot be seen. And yet, we're touched by it. So, if you look at things from a religious perspective, they say that the source of creation, what we call God, they say God is light. If you look at a spiritual writings, they compare consciousness, which is another word for creation, also as light. And when physicists look at the nature of reality, what's underneath everything that is perceptible and touchable and smellable and seeable is something that is not touchable, not smellable, not seeable. It's an energy called light. The nature of the universe is vibration. Vibration is the language of life. It's the language of the universe. We've been led to believe that my words are communicating a message to your ears, and then your words communicate a message to my ears, and we process this in the mind, and then we say, oh, I know what they're saying. But we are more touched by what is not being said, but what is in fact being emitted than by anything else. So the expression in America is actions speak louder than words. In other words, the way one is moved in their life expresses essentially who they are. I think Gandhi said this best when he said, "My life is my message." So I became very interested in light in the very early 1970s and utilized light as a therapeutic tool, was able to help many people, specifically using what we call color as a therapeutic tool. I discovered some very powerful things about color. For instance, I found that people liked certain colors and disliked others. And in the process of my research, I discovered that the colors people liked were vibrationally related to things in their life they felt at ease with. In other words, things that they resonated with, they were in tune with. Colors they felt a little uncomfortable with, those vibrationally were related to aspects of life that they were dissonant with. Not that they were brought closer to, but they were moved further apart. And so my work is about utilizing color to help people be able to begin to embrace aspects of life that feel a little bit uncomfortable. In other words, the purpose of my work is to support people in becoming comfortable with more things in their life that used to feel uncomfortable, so that the body can take in more light. Because when we're uncomfortable with a color, what we're saying is we're not going to let that one in my house. But when we become more comfortable, more light gets in and more life gets in. So as we're able to absorb more of the full spectrum of light, we absorb more of the full spectrum of life. Why is this important? Because we all are searching for the same thing: health and contentment. And every function of the body is light dependent. Nothing can function without light. And so as we allow more light, or as more light can traverse our being our body begins to become more alive, more active, more energized, and it makes it easier for us to fulfill our purpose for being. And as we become more comfortable with aspects of life that used to feel uncomfortable, we experience less stress. Now, your listeners all know that about 90% of disease comes about because of dis-ease, discomfort, because we encounter something in life and we have something like an allergic reaction to it. It's not like an allergic reaction to poison ivy or poison oak, but we have both emotional and psychophysiological reactivity to it, and our system contracts. So as more light and more life gets in, we have less irritation, greater contentment, and more a sense of being at peace and a sense of being at home. And then from there, something very profound happens. When I was working with light as a doctor, and even afterwards, I used to say we use the light to see the light, to see truth. And if we are fortunate enough to uncover truth, to see the light, then there's a possibility that we ourselves begin to radiate light. And they term that awakening or enlightenment. But most people have no idea what this is, because they think, oh, if you become enlightened, life is perfect. No more problems. You have all the money you want. Relationships are perfect. Nothing bothers you. Never get sick any longer. I have not found this to be in any way related to life. This is just an interesting idea, which is not based in fact. Awakening, just for me, is a realization that life is beyond understanding, that the mind is not the source. The mind is just internal activity that has to do with the conditioning that each of us has undergone and how we compensate for that conditioning. See, we were led to believe that the mind is actually my mind. And so if we think of the mind as my mind, then it is me, because we were told that animals and plants, they didn't have this ability to think. But we had this, so we were more evolved. But the word thinking means, when I say I think, it doesn't mean I know. It means I don't know. I think means I don't know. And if you look at how often the mind is actually accurate, you discover something fascinating. It's almost never accurate. And yet we rely our whole life on it. So what does it mean to see the light? Everyone that's listening today is aware when the mind is thinking. They see it, they hear it. And I think the first thing we should recognize is when we think of thinking, we think of a very high level highly evolved activity. But everyone knows that most thinking is just worrying. It's just what occurs because we were all led to believe you could live life, and if you did it correctly, then you would have safety, you would have security, and you would have predictability. But the reason we say everything is always changing is because there is no safety, there is no security, and there is no predictability in life. So most of us are living according to an idea, a belief, but is not truth. So when one notices the mind is active, the reason one notices it is because their essence is observing it, is aware of it. We are not the mind. We are that which notices mind, mental activity, as well as physical activity, as well as things going on outside of ourselves. That is the source of the seeing. That is the answer to the question, who am I? And when one has the direct experience of that revelation, they become silent because they realize their words don't have much value, but when what is coming through is not coming through from them, but through them, then the message, the message is from the animating intelligence of life. And that is the way we can have maybe some impact in the world. So today we're having a conversation, and if many people or whoever is listening, they would say, oh, Simon asked Jacob a question and Jacob is responding. But the question came to you, not from you. And the answer is coming through me, not from me either. So this is part of the mystery. And what I'm suggesting is not New Age rhetoric, it's scientific fact. None of us are aware of what is being said. It comes from the unconscious. It's not unconscious because we're unaware of it. It's unconscious because we're not supposed to be aware of it. We're not supposed to try to mess with it. So there's an amazing mystery in life. And when you are touched by it, you begin to see life through the eyes of a child once again, a freshness, a newness, and so on. So that's a long answer to a question I don't even remember.
And in your book, you write about presence. Is that what you are now also referring to? That I think in your book you also refer to it as something which cannot be forced, which cannot be willed,
right.
to like
right.
one becoming present as a goal of the mind, possibly.
Our entire life is based on the assumption that we're here to do something. But there is not any aspect of our makeup that is designed to initiate action. Everything in the mind-body complex is merely responding to something. That something is coming from the animating force of the universe. Something comes from that force, and the oceans move. We call it the tides. Something comes from that source, and the earth rotates along with the other planets, all rotating around the sun. And we call this the solar system, which means that the solar system is of or derived from light. In essence, the earth, the trees, all living things are just literally materialized light, or at least light that appears material to the eyes of human beings. So when you speak of presence, presence is everything. Presence is not an activity that happens when someone says you need to be more present. Presence includes every instance of every instance of every instance. It includes everything. It includes this conversation. It includes everything that's on your computer other than the Zoom, all the little things on the screen. It includes the trees that are outside the window and the birds that just flew out there. Even though I'm not looking at them, they have found their way into my awareness. Presence includes everything, including the moments that we think that we are not present. Even those moments are presence. Presence is not an action. It is an invitation to come into resonance with life. What do I mean by that? You see, we've all been led to believe I'm creating my own reality. I am the source. That I thinks that it knows, but doesn't know. That which really knows doesn't know that it knows and doesn't care. It's something very, very different. So we have an expression that I mentioned in the book Luminous Life, a very common expression. In the States, we say, what caught your eye, or what's catching my eye? Another way of saying that is, what's looking for me? Wow, what an interesting idea. We've all been led to believe that we're looking at life. So when we talk about the environment and things that are happening in the environment, we are looking at the environment, but we have forgotten that we are the environment. We're not viewing it, we are it along with everything else. So in actuality, life is guiding every step of our existence. Every step of our existence. And that guidance is continually guiding the activity of every cell of the body. Not only does the body live on light, but the body internally communicates with light. Every second, every cell gives off more than 100,000 photons of light. That light is the communication system of our physiology. They're sending signals of light. And if the light is bright and structured, in other words, organized, the meaning of that signal or the result of that signal is called health. But if that light is disorganized because it is a reflection of us, then that is a reflection of dis-ease, dysfunction, something less than optimal. So this subject of light is very profound because there's no way of escaping it. It isn't that we are here and the sun is there. Every microsecond of every second of every day, 24 hours a day, our body is being guided by signals of light that are imperceptible to the conscious being. So this is all going on before we ever become aware of it. And our system is moving in that direction well before we say, oh, I made a choice. I created my own reality. Sorry, it doesn't work this way. We become aware of movement in a certain direction. And then we say, look what I came up with. Look what I thought of. Look what I created. We are not the creators. We become aware of the guidance, which is guiding us to bring something forth into the world. And so part of my journey, someone said to me the other day, well, are you going to be writing more books? Are you writing more books? I said, there probably will be no more books. Why? I'm not here to write. I went through that stage until I discovered that my medium of art is just allowing things to come through, not to try to make them perfect and grammatically exact and get a best-selling book. And I don't need any of that. It's just about allowing the universal truth to traverse our being and to be humbled by the profoundness of this experience. I think that is true prosperity. That is presence, if you will. That is how life brings us into uncovering light.
So then my question, how to become more present, is really a pointless question from one perspective, because
right.
unfolds.
It unfolds, in biology and in life, timing is everything. Now, human beings, we run our life according to a clock, a watch, what's on my cell phone. And we're either on time, or we're early, or we running behind. How did we come up with the concept of time? Did time exist before we developed the watch? We have maybe 100 trillion cells in the body. All of them have a wristwatch. And they had that before we even came into being. And that wristwatch basically instructs the cell of what time of the day is it? What time of the night is it? Am I in Maui, Hawaii? Am I in Mexico? Am I in Frankfurt? Or am I just outside of Zurich? Where am I? Because timing is everything. Every physiological function is based on timing. Timing. Each of those 100 trillion little watches are connected to a big grandfather clock. The grandfather clock is located in a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus we call the brain's brain. It's the chairman of the board. It controls the autonomic nervous system. It controls the endocrine system. It is the major collecting station for all the emotional happenings of our life. And it contains the body's primary biological clock. The clock that determines when everything happens and to what degree. It's the clock that causes you to feel in sync or out of sync when you're jet lagged. And every watch from all the trillions of cells are connected and guided by that grandfather clock. And that is the timing of everything. So what does this have to do with your question? The idea of trying to be more present is sort of pointless. That's right, because the presence, the awareness, the awakening, whatever you wish to call it, it comes at a precise instance when everything just lines up. And everything doesn't line up because I meditate, or because I'm vegan, or because I'm a practitioner of yoga, or because I do all the right things according to what I've read. Doesn't line up because of what we do. It lines up when all the doing, for reasons we may not understand, just cease. Even if they cease for a microsecond, everything lines up. And usually it's followed by an epiphany, a revelation, an aha moment. And when that epiphany occurs, it can be life-changing. It's not what I think is true. It's truth. Truth that sets one free. And so all the doing in the world does not actually bring one to where they think they're trying to reach, although the doing has a purpose. Most of us are aware of the Buddha, Gautama. When the Buddha awoke, one of his first revelations was, I spent all these years working so hard, and now I realized there was actually nothing to do. So all the working at it, all the trying, everything we do serves a purpose in that it allows us to see, after doing everything and still not arriving, when we finally say, that's when the opening occurs. And that's when the secret becomes a little bit clearer, and we become more silent, less out there. More of our life is about receiving communication rather than having communication. Because that communication is in fact moving us, guiding us.
No, I know this very well. I thought I have to achieve or find a solution to this life, and was on a continuous quest for modalities and teachings, etc. And then I encountered the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. I think you also quote him in your book.
Sure.
And he had a phrase or a saying, I don't recall it exactly, but something along the lines that there is no creation, there's no destruction, and there's no free will. And that's the final truth. And that was very difficult for my mind to absorb, because I thought when I make the right choices, then I will find the way to freedom.
Right. I remember in 1984, I did an evening presentation, and the title of it was The High Price of Free Will. And it had to do with the fact that everybody says, well, we have free will. And I always ask, well, how do you know this? How do you know this? And even more importantly than how do you know this, do you know anyone that has ever lived that actually was able to run their life with their free will? Do you think Jesus did it? If so, why did he have so many problems? Ramana Maharshi died of cancer. Most everyone that we say, they were awoken, they had that premier consciousness, they all share the same thing: hard times. Hard times. Because they all also did the same thing that you and I and everyone that is listening today is also involved in. We have been conditioned to believe that we have to make it happen. That's why parents and people always say, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? You're grown up from the time you come in. You're fully there. The only difference is that when an infant comes in, an infant doesn't know it's an infant. An infant doesn't know whether it's male, female, or some combination in between. It doesn't know whether skin is white or dark or some color in between. It doesn't know, am I Christian? Am I Buddhist? Am I Jewish? These things don't exist because they're not inherent with our makeup. They are part of the persona. Persona. I remember when I was a young man, and someone wanted to introduce me to a girl I might like. They said, she has a wonderful personality. Personality comes from the word persona. Persona is the mask that the actor puts on to give the impression that they are a certain individual that they are actually not. That's the persona. Persona comes from the Italian word personare, which means to peer through. In other words, the real essence is not the persona, it's that which is looking through the persona. It's the eyes of God. It's that which notices the mind shattering. So to uncover what is the essence, I found it valuable to discover who I'm not than who I am. And so much of my mentoring work with individuals is to, through the course of our friendship, begin to see that nothing is wrong with them. You see, you said something, Simon. You said, God, I spent my whole life trying to
AIDS. Yeah, I'm not at all. But
and
yeah.
it's sort of like it's like climbing a ladder, and you're climbing and you're climbing, and you get almost to the top of the ladder, and then you realize, oh my God, I leaned the ladder against the wrong wall.
Yeah.
So we spend so much time following an idea, and then we realize that it's empty, it's virtual, it doesn't work. And in the process, we think, geez, something must really be wrong with me. I mean, I've meditated every day. I'm eating the right way. I'm taking all the right vitamins and minerals. I'm doing everything that the books say I should do. And I still haven't arrived. And it's a point of inflection where we recognize something. It also allows you to see something, that so much of what we hear, that we believe, is actually not based in fact. It's just things the mind comes up with. It's an interesting idea. It's marketing. It's like calling death insurance life insurance, or using the word intelligence when we speak of military intelligence. What is that? We call illness, sick insurance, health insurance. Do you ever wonder why we call worrying thinking? It makes us believe it's something different than what it is. So much of our life is a realization that we use language to describe something in ways that make it sound a little different than what it actually is. Because words are a very poor substitute for direct experience. You can't, we use the word love, but what is it? And people think, I can be more loving. No, love is either there or it's not. It's not something we do. Kindness is there or it's not. If you have to think about being kind or saying the right thing or whatever, it's not real. It's not real. So my life is about uncovering truth. Another way of saying that is seeing the light. And so all of my years as a physician, as a scientist, I'm still a physician and a scientist, although I'm not in practice for many, many years. But I am no longer looking at life through a microscope or a telescope or through a gold standard placebo-controlled study, peer-reviewed study. Yes, these things are important, but I'm a different kind of scientist. Sometimes you call these kinds of scientists mystics. A mystic is just someone that their microscope or telescope is direct experience. That is what moves me. And direct experience isn't one of the hundreds of experiences we have each day. A direct experience is each time that we are moved. Something happens that stops us in our tracks. It's happening right this moment for me. It's been going on for almost an hour now. I don't know what happened. A man named Simon reached out to the office and said, "Gee, would you like to do an interview?" My assistant said to me, and immediately yes came up. I don't know who Simon is. Simon really doesn't know who I am, other than my name is on a book and it sounds maybe interesting. But we don't really know who anyone is by the book or by the degrees or by why they say what they say. You have to live with them for a week. You need to be with them. And then to see, gee, does your heart open with them? Or does the heart say, So what's fascinating for me is you didn't know what was going to happen today. Neither did I. Neither one of us knew anything. You said in the beginning, "Oh, I have questions." And maybe those questions were answered. Maybe you realize, this had a life of its own. And see, that's the magic. What we're speaking about right now is the magic. How does this, you can say, "Oh, we created a nice interview." We didn't do anything. We were invited in mysteriously. Neither one of us knew a damn thing. And all of a sudden, something took us on a journey. That's magnificent. That is humbling. That causes you to say, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" I mean, something is breathing me from moment to moment. Something is pumping my heart, regulating my blood pressure, my blood sugar, my hormones, when they're released, when they're not, when I awaken, when I sleep, when I eat, when I go to the bathroom. All of that occurs for us. All of it. And we're led to believe that we're doing it. Animals in the wild and human beings, all living things, they share something that's common to all living things. It's very, very simple. It's a tuning fork inside of our essence. And whenever we encounter anything else and the tuning fork resonates, regardless of what we want or don't want or anything else, we find ourselves being moved closer to this other being. And pretty soon, we forget that I am Simon, you are Jacob, you are Jacob, I am. We forget all of this. We forget our troubles. We forget any aches and pains in the body. We forget all the things we were worried about. And we feel lifted into a level of life that does not include problems or solutions. For that period of time, everything just is. Or we connect with something and something seems to push us apart. Not because we want to go anywhere, it just pushes us apart. Now, when that occurs with an animal and it feels resonance, it just stays right there. But when it feels dissonance, it takes off. Something runs it as fast as it can away. It doesn't say, how did I create this reality? It doesn't say, am I in denial? It doesn't say, I need to do some work on myself. I need to, because if it did that, it would be eaten. That sense that is common to all living things is called common sense. It's common to all living things. The mind is an archive of the conditioning of humanity throughout time in our particular lineage, and an archive of the internal compensations, the persona that comes into play so we can feel safe. And the reason we want to feel safe is because our nature is not normal. And what is normal is not our nature. So we're continually trying to make an adjustment to fit in to something that doesn't fit. So the tuning fork, the common sense, once we recognize that there is that part that brings us together or moves us apart, not because something is right or something is wrong, just because that's the intelligence of life. Once we realize that, the mind no longer has a job. It may chatter, one is aware of it, but it is not what is guiding. It is just background noise. And after a while, it seems to chatter less and less and less and become softer and softer and softer. What more?
Yeah. I think that's also what you wrote in your book. We're designed to function with very little effort.
Yeah, no effort at all.
That's very different than what we believe or think. How shall we go about
it
life?
Is.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You see, if something is effective, then it's important to look at it. But if you keep doing the same thing and it's not effective, that should tell you something. It's not effective.
Common sense. Yeah.
Yeah, just common sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. This was really a magical conversation. And the time, just flew by, I have to say. Yeah.
It disappeared.
Yeah, it completely disappeared, actually. Yeah. It was, a really wonderful experience. And thank you so much for taking the time and having this conversation.
My pleasure. There was no time, so I didn't have to take it. Yeah.
Yeah, for everyone who is
it was
listening
a pleasure,
to this.
and yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say that whoever is listening now to this conversation, I will of course add the link to your webpage and the books you have written also to the show notes of this episode, so that everybody who's curious to dive deeper into your discoveries can do so and has the resources. Is there anything else, Jacob, you want to share, or a last word from your side?
Yeah, whatever came through today is all there is. My work in the world is not about selling things. It's about having enriching, nourishing conversation that really matters, that really moves us. So thank you so much for inviting me. And please send me a link so we can share it with people that like to follow my work and would probably find it very interesting as well, and also be introduced to you.
Oh, I surely will. Yeah. Again, it's really a pleasure. It's an honor to have had this conversation with you. And thank you again for your presence.
And thank you again for yours. And we'll do this again in the future.
Yeah, I'm totally up for it. Yeah, that
good.
So I think I can say this already. Happy New Year. Yeah.
Thank you, and the same to you, and have a wonderful time where you are right now.
Yeah.
And then whenever you get back, you'll be bringing new things with you, and life will continue in a wonderful way.
It will. Yeah, it has been so far. And so thank you again. And also for everybody who's watching and listening to this conversation now, thank you for taking the time to tune in. And I hope this conversation led to more clarity, vision. And I wish you all the best and see you soon.
And I wish you the best as well. And all those people that joined us today, thank you so much. We were able to experience this together, and I think that's what the world needs now. More together. Many blessings for the new year.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.
A pleasure. See you soon.
What's my potential? What's really inside me? Is it possible to be joyful and to express who I truly am? Do I have unique gifts and talents? If I do, how do I find them? And if I find them, how do I bring them into life? And is it even possible to make a living from what I actually love to do? Those were some of the questions which drove me now more than a decade. And I don't want to give you a definitive answer, but I learned very valuable principles on my quest that helped me to discover who I am and to bring what I am actually into this life, beyond expectations, beyond conditioning, beyond limiting or self-defeating negative thoughts. And now I want to be the bridge and pass those principles on to you. And not only remind you with my words, but actually enable you to discover and experience that for yourself, real self-discovery, that you are a wonderfully creative being, a genius in the truest sense of the word, and you have the potential and the possibility to unfold what is actually in you and set yourself creatively free. This is my mission. Very important, please don't believe my words or possibly your own skeptical thoughts, but check it out, experience it for yourself, and take part in our next seminar, Structural Creativity. More information here. I'm really looking forward to set your creativity free.